Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Zach here. Behind me I have the super stock truck. If you remember from last video, we actually blew the engine in practice in Crandon all the way back in June. And we've got the truck ready. Tomorrow we're loading up to head to Bark River up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I want to talk you through everything we had to do to the truck to get it ready and all the part shortages we had to deal with. So first and foremost, we had to build a new short block for the race truck. And fun fact about the engine block itself is it's actually out of a truck we have that was on an episode of Dirt Every Day on the Motor Trend channel. And that was the F250 episode that they built over a weekend and took it to Colorado. And second, we had to replace 2 bent valves. And we almost thought we weren't going to make Bark River because we couldn't find any valves in the country. Luckily, we sourced some, worked with the valve manufacturer to source 2 valves out of North Dakota, had those expedited in here. We're able to throw them in and get the engine together. Engine runs great. Everything's solid there so far. And then to tie into the engine, we also put an AccuSump in the truck. And if you want to come over here, I'll show you what that is. But basically this gives us pre-oiling of the engine before we fire it up. And then if there's any way the pickup does not have oil to it, it shoots, it's an accumulator of oil, so if it reads that it doesn't have oil pressure, it shoots oil to the bearings and keeps the engine turning and makes sure we don't chew up any bearings or lose oil pressure. And so that's sitting right there in the back center of the cab. It's this blue container there, and then the oil hose runs over by on the left hand side of the engine on the driver's side and ties into basically the oil filter base over there. And then I've got a pull cable. Every time I fire it up, push the cable down, and then before I shut off, pull the cable up. It's a manually operated valve. That way we have no electronics causing us more issues. It's mechanical, at least less likely to give us any issue on race day. One other thing you might have saw in there was we installed a fresh air system, and this I had before the season started, but just didn't have time to get it in the truck. So now we had a little bit of time. Go ahead and get that in there. But I ordered a fresh air helmet, and I'll show you. My old helmet, no provision for the fresh air hose to go into. The new helmet has this provision which you hook up the fresh air system hose to, but this actually won't work. So it's another issue when you're doing everything, you know, ordering online, waiting for it to come in, see if it'll work for your application, because it's not like a factory vehicle or nothing's really laid out. You have to order it and see if it works, really. Trial and error, basically. So with how tall I am, I have to have the seat all the way against the back of the cage in the cab, and that causes, when the hose is hooked up, me not to I can't lean my head all the way back with the helmet on, and so I'm leaning forward in the seat, and that just doesn't work for hitting jumps and being strapped in securely. So this helmet's not going to work. Back to the drawing board, and then again, you can't find helmets. They're all out of stock, and the saying goes, if you have a $10 head, buy a $10 helmet. So I don't want to buy a cheap one. And so I ordered an adapter to try to make work for a Bell helmet. We're going to try to see if we can make it work on my old helmet and have fresh air that way. But we're going to hold on to this helmet, still use it for my brother to use in the desert truck we're going to put together. And then another thing, when you're running, come around to the front here. Another thing is these trucks take a lot of rock to the front, and so I used to have 2 lights up in the front, and I have a power steering cooler and an oil cooler behind the grill, so I don't want to block off all air because they're not run by a fan, just the airflow from the truck is what cools the oil through those coolers. And used to have 2 lights in the front, fake lights. Used to have 2 lights in the front to block any rock, and that just wasn't enough, so went ahead and made it a 4-light plate basically, and then used black vinyl to make it look transparent, but there's still aluminum there that's going to block any rock from coming in. And so did that. And then also another thing we have all these parts for these trucks, a lot of them come from overseas and things just don't fit, right? So let me show you an example of that. So if you come down here, you've got the wheel bearing of the truck that's protected by this cap right here. So this cap is keeping all dirt and debris and everything in the inside clean and everything on the outside out. And we had an issue and we had to basically wrap them with electrical tape to keep the factory caps, factory replacement caps, in there secured so they don't come out. And what my dad ended up doing was ordering some aluminum stock that fit the hub exactly, so he was able to machine that out, slide it over the end of the hub, and then use a cap off of a Mustang that fit inside the aluminum. That way we know for a fact that we're not going to lose the cap, and the cap's going to keep all dirt out of our wheel bearings. And that's just another thing where when you put these trucks in a racing application, there's a lot of stuff you can't buy and you got to make yourself or make work, or trial and error. For the AccuSump, for example, you order in 10 fittings, one of them doesn't work, you're paying next day shipping for the $25 fitting, and the shipping's 50 bucks. So that's the struggle of racing, trying to get these trucks ready so quickly. And other than that, truck's ready to go. We did fix some body panels, as you saw. We were filling in some cracks with some resin in the last video and then laying new wrap. So this fender actually has a split wrap on it, but you can't tell because my dad at Unique Label was able to blend it in basically and save our panel, save the rest of the wrap. So wish me luck in Bark River, and be sure to check that video out in the coming weeks.